Hello everyone and welcome back. This session we will talk about users and partitions. Users, we mean the administrative users who access the big IP for administration tasks. Uh, Throughout the previous sessions, we used admin for GUI, for the configuration utility, for the web management of the big IP, and for the CLI we used root. Now we could use admin for the CLI because we can enable SSH access for the admin. By default it's not enabled, but we can enable it. However, root is only command line username. We cannot enable GUI access to the root, and root exists only in the Linux operating system. So if we go to the big IP system, click on user list, you will see only admin. So from F5 big IP perspective, the only user available by default for the big IP system, for the TMOS, is the admin. Root is the root user for the underlying Linux operating system, where the big IP is sitting on top of it, or the TMOS is sitting on top of the Linux. So admin, by default GUI, we can enable SSH. Root, by default SSH, and that's it. We cannot enable GUI access for root user. If we would like to enable the, click on the admin, you see terminal access is disabled by default. So you want to enable terminal access. What is the default terminal you want for the admin? Let's start by using advanced shell. Okay, click update. Let's go to the CLI, open SSH. It's coming as root. So we say admin, put the password. Now we can see that we have SSH using admin, and we are on the Linux shell command. We use the usual Linux commands, but we can get into the TMOS. If we say tmsh, we're in TMOS list /ltm pool. We can quit. We go back. Let me exit the SSH session. Let's change the terminal access to be tmsh. Click update. We log in SSH again. Now we landed directly in TMOS. Previously, we landed in Linux shell. Now we landed in TMOS. Doesn't mean we cannot go back to the Linux shell. Just type bash, go back, tmsh. So as a user admin, whether you give him tmsh or advanced shell, he can move between both. Here, we enable the terminal access and we are defining the landing mode. Will admin land on tmsh or advanced shell? Okay, so to create a new user, we have to go to system, users, user list, and then click new user. As we can see here, create. To create user, you have to give him username, and please pay attention that username is case sensitive. Username is case sensitive, so capital and small matters. Give him a password and give him a role. Role means what can the user do, sort of package of privileges. Do you want to give the user terminal access? You can define and then click finish. Now, ability to give the user terminal access will be influenced by the rule. Let's take an example here. Let's start by creating a user who is guest. So let's say G user, guest user. Give him a password. So we keep the role as guest. Click add. Now you see that you can only give him TMSH access. Let's give him TMSH access. Click finish. Now let's open a new private window and type in the big IP address asking me. So say J guest user password. So now we're logged in as guest. You can see the user is guest, role is guest. Now, if you try to come to node list, you see that the ability to create or to modify is grayed out. Why? Because guest role, when you create a user and give him the role guest, it means he can only view. He cannot change or modify. The role is guest. Let's log out from the GUI access and let's try the guest with the command line. Let me open new CLI session. Don't want admin. Guest user password. Now we are able to use the SSH with the guest user, but we can say list NTM pool. But if you try to say create LTM pool test, you cannot. So even on CLI, you can see, but you cannot modify or create new. This is what the role guest means. It gives access only as read only. What other roles available? Operator, application auditor, manager, resource admin, auditor, admin. Admin is the administrator or the super admin, like the admin we use. The username admin we use has the role administrator. So if you want to give one full access to the device, you can assign him. So I click on the role, I say edit, give him admin, click add. Now you can see you can give him both advanced shell and TMSH. Why? Because his role is admin. Some roles, most of the roles actually, only administrator will get access to the advanced shell. Only the administrator role can get access to the advanced shell. Click update. So let's go back to the slide. So the role we are giving will define what the user can do. The partition, we will talk in the next section about partitions. So terminal access, as we said, we can give TMSH to any user, but the advanced shell, the Linux advanced shell, can only be given to the administrator role. What are the different roles that we have? Resource admin can manage objects in all partitions. So as a resource admin, if I give resource admin role to a user one, for example, he can manage objects. Manage objects means he can create a new object, he can delete, he can modify existing objects, but he cannot create or manage user accounts. So he cannot create another admin, or he cannot create a new user, he cannot modify an existing user. The resource administrator role. User manager, this is, as the name implies, this is someone who is delegated to deal with users. So if you have lots of users on the big IP, you can assign one of the team members to be a user manager, so he can deal with modifying users, adding user, deleting user, changing password of user, giving more privilege to user, taking out privilege from existing user, etc. So a user manager role will be able to manage users on the big IP. Manager, very much similar to the resource admin, can manage all objects, but you have the option to give him access to all the system or specific partition of the system. All the system or specific partition of the system. Now, there is a good table on the big IP documentation. If you go to the LTM user accounts administration user roles, you can see that the resource admin, you cannot say a user who has a resource admin role only on a specific partition. No, user admin will be on the whole system. When you give a user the role user admin, resource admin, sorry, he will be able to modify, create, delete all objects on the big IP. You cannot say no only for specific objects, no. If you want to do that, if you want to assign a user administrator on specific set of the objects, you go with the role manager. This is the role manager. But you link the manager with a partition, specific set of the objects. Now you can still give the manager access to all partition. He will become similar to the resource admin. If we create a user with the role manager on the whole system, all partitions, then he is very similar to the resource admin. Administrator is the super admin. This is the only role who can have access to the Linux advanced shell.